Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Shankly Sessions, the Liverpool podcast that we bring you each and every week on the upper tier out there on YouTube. If you could smash that subscribe and bell notification button, we are going to be bringing you content throughout the whole of the summer, even though the season is done. We have transfer shows coming your way and various other interviews and stuff like that with legends and stuff like that. But I thought I'd jump on and do a quick show in relation to the questions that's being asked on the back of the defeat of the Champions League. Has Liverpool's season been a success or a failure? And certainly it's a question that has divided our fan base over the last week or so. Obviously some of it is reactionary because the disappointment of not winning the Champions League, that coupled with 6 days of hell, if you want to call it, because missing out on the league by a point as well against Man City was terrible to say the least, and especially the manner in which it was that we were 10 minutes out from potentially winning the league and then Aston Villa just collapsed. Even though Stevie and the boys, they did as much as they could, but it was a heck of a collapse, and hats off to Man City, of course, for getting back in there. And listening to Pep after the game, he was filled with nothing but admiration for Liverpool and the way that they were a great team, that we are a great team, and that we had pushed Man City to the absolute limit. Especially if you think back to January where we were 14 points behind them, and to pull it back to within a point was a phenomenal achievement. Really, the league could have been done months ago if it wasn't for Liverpool. But yeah, I suppose a number of ex-players have come out as well. Dirk Kuyt has come out and says that he thinks that the season is an absolute failure. That if we don't win the league and we don't win the Champions League and we only land 2 domestic cups, that has to be seen as a failure. That wouldn't have been our priorities at the start of the season. And in some respects you agree with him, but somewhere between the two was probably the truth. I think if we ended up with no silverware this year, I think that would be an absolute failure. Even though there is some positives to be taken out of this season as well when you go back and you look at it. I mean, the rise of Kanate after coming in, he's been absolutely exceptional. Luis Diaz coming in January was absolutely brilliant. Virgil van Dijk coming back after nearly a year out with an ACL injury to play at that level, constantly week in, week out, absolutely phenomenal. Alisson again, absolutely brilliant in goals. The number of one-on-ones he saved us, where we could have drawn games and stuff like that. But then there's disappointments within the season as well. The draw at Brentford, the draw at Brighton. I was at the game at Anfield that day, and the Cop was very, very disappointing the way we just dropped off and gave them the draw. Ultimately, the defeat to West Ham and the manner in which it went was very disappointing as well. But to go through a whole season and only lose 4 games in all competitions, to play all 63 games was a phenomenal achievement. And to come so close and bring us on a journey and let us dream about a quadruple, unprecedented quadruple that had never been done, and to get so close, to get to within 2 games of it and to play every game available. When I read an article about Sadio Mane and Mo Salah, and I know their contracts are up in the air at the moment, looks like either one or both may end up leaving. But they put in, I think, over 180,000 air miles each this season, which is a phenomenal amount of travel and a phenomenal amount of fatigue. And to chase down City, remain consistent in the Champions League, to run out 2 domestic cups, both going to 120 minutes and penalty shootouts, and to have the mentality to get through a lot of that is phenomenal by the team. I can only see, elements of it as being a success, albeit we didn't land the league and we didn't land the Champions League. And to be so dominant in that Champions League in the first half, a little bit of a drop off in the second half, especially when they scored, there was kind of an adrenaline dump, because we have struggled to score goals in cup finals this year. And we knew that if we went a goal behind, it could be a struggle. We know how good Madrid are when they get their noses in front. And for Courtois to play the way he did on the night, it's probably his greatest ever performance between the sticks, and to just happen on that night where it was up against us. And I suppose, congrats to them. I mean, they came through that Champions League. They knocked out PSG, Chelsea, Man City and ourselves. You could only applaud them and say that they deserved it. The writing was on the wall. And often we talk about our legacy and our journey and our history and stuff like that, and that it's written in the stars that these things should happen for us. Well, I guess this season it was written in the stars for Real Madrid. with the journey that they went on and the amount of times they scraped through and found the resolve to get that result that they needed and dig in, was phenomenal. Albeit disappointing and heartbreaking for us. I gave an interview to Sky Sports News and to BBC World News. I was up at Aintree at the Fan Fest, and I gave an interview to both of them. I was devastated at the end of the game. I was devastated for the team. I was devastated for the fans. But so proud of the journey that they brought us on this season with some remarkable results, and some brilliant performances, as well as some tough performances where we had to dig in. In January, everyone thought that we were going to fall apart, that we were losing Mane and Salah and Keita to the AFCON. And arguably we played some of our better football in January. Jota and those guys stepped up big time. So there's a lot to be proud of. But I mean, we do have to dissect it down, and we do have to think at the start of the season what would our goals have been. And our goals probably would have been to push for a title race. I know our rivals were talking about us being in fourth. City would have obviously been the strong favourites. Obviously Chelsea would have been up there as well after bringing in Lukaku, the missing piece in the jigsaw that they thought might work for them. Turned out that it didn't. And obviously with Man United as well running second the season before, they thought they would have been in a title race as well, especially because of bringing in Ronaldo and Sancho and Varane. They would have thought they were the missing pieces in their jigsaw to push them closer to City and be in a title race. But the title race ended up with two teams, and it was like that basically from about February onwards. It was us chasing down City and no one else was really in the loop. But if we go back and we look at the key issues in that season and we have a think about them, and this is where you're torn between the two, between success and failure. Obviously no goals in 3 cup finals is kind of very disappointing for Liverpool. And the thing about it is, if we had been able to see out the league win, if we had been able to get over the line and beat City to the league, I really think that wave would have brought us through the Champions League final. But it didn't. And obviously, as we said, once Real Madrid got a goal, there was an adrenaline dump for us, and it just, we just never looked like we were going to do it. Courtois was sublime. I think our targets at start of season, as I said, I think we would have been wanting to be in and around the league campaign, there or thereabouts. There was a little bit of disappointment at the start of the season with the transfer window, albeit we had re-signed a lot of key players and spent a lot of money doing that. But we had only brought in Kanate, which meant that it was kind of a weak transfer window. We didn't replace Gini Wijnaldum. And who knows, maybe if we had brought Luis Diaz in at that stage, maybe it might have been a very different season, but it's all if, buts and maybes. In terms of the domestic glory, we've been vilified in previous years about domestic cups, about playing weakened sides and playing the kids and disrespecting the cups and stuff like that. This year we didn't do that. This year we put out strong teams in both domestic cups to the point where we got the both finals, won them on penalties, and put the 2 domestic trophies into the cabinet. But of course, once you do that as well, then it switches, because the level that Liverpool and City are operating at now, it's all about the league and the Champions League in reality, and the others are kind of a bonus. So in terms of 1 to 4, in terms of the ranking on the trophies, we won 3 and 4. But I think of it as being like, going out for a meal, and you have the starter, you miss the main course, and you have the dessert. And it was just a little bit disappointing from that point of view. On Saturday, watching the Champions League, when it was all done and dusted, and I seen Real Madrid lift the trophy, I did a throwback back to my childhood. I used to watch Bullseye on a Sunday evening with my dad. It was one of the routines that we had, and I just remember that the contestants used to gamble their money to win the top prize, and when they'd lose, they'd wheel out the top prize and go, well, look at what you could have won. And I kind of felt that for the players, and I felt that for the fan base as well. I was sitting there looking at Real Madrid lift the trophy, and I was thinking to the Liverpool players, well, this is what you could have won, but we didn't. So it was kind of disappointing from that point of view, In terms of the highlights of the season, as I said already, Konate, Diaz, Van Dijk, and so many others, Fabinho, Keita going more or less injury-free, Thiago coming into the team more or less injury-free and playing really, really well. Obviously, the disappointment is the league and the Champions League, where we had gotten so close. And obviously, Origi heading off to AC Milan, the legend at our club, really, and we wish him well. So it's disappointing to see him go out the door as well. He's given us so many cherished moments. And maybe, maybe in that Champions League final, maybe if Origi had been on the bench, and maybe if we had had him available and thrown Origi on, maybe he would have had that one last moment for us, where he delivered on the big stage, and gave us that send-off moment, but it just wasn't to be. And I think most fans this season, I think they'll reflect on the season as being, I suppose, that we won silverware, but we didn't win the silverware. And that's really where the debate lies. In terms of the fan base, they adore this team. They put every one of those players up on a throne. You see them with the parade on the Sunday. Hundreds of thousands of Liverpool fans. While we were over there, I met an elderly lady. She was about 90. She had travelled with her grandson. They're big Liverpool fans. And we had breakfast with them. And they had travelled from New Zealand to be in Liverpool for the final and for the parade. They travelled for 4 days. So the commitment of the fan base is unwavering. We will bounce back from this. We will be stronger next season. We have to up our game. We have to get signings in, especially with the news going around about what's happening with the front two boys. Something's going to have to happen there, and something big. We know that City's bringing in Haaland and Julian Alvarez, so the gap is going to be huge if we don't react to it. Just like United and Chelsea and Arsenal and Tottenham, they all have to react to this now, or we're all very quickly going to become bit part players in this league, let's be honest. And this league will eventually become like the French league if we don't react to what City is doing in the market. I think ultimately, that this team and its error and the Klopp error will be judged on trophies. I don't think we can get away from that. I think when fans come in and they talk to us and stuff like that, we always talk about 6 for our European Cups. We always talk about 19 league titles. But a number of records were broken this season. We were the first English team to win all our games in the Champions League group stage. I think we were the first team to play all games available to us, 63. Mo obviously picking up the gold boot and sharing it with Son, albeit he had a massive drop off in the last 5 months of the season. Realistically, he should have been out of sight, and realistically, he should have scored 30 plus goals. And he'll be disappointed with that in terms of the fatigue from the AFCON and the disappointment of it, and also going out of the World Cup as well in the qualifiers, and that coupled with the contract situation that's ongoing, it probably hasn't been easy for him, hasn't been easy for us, and hasn't been easy for the club. So there's a lot of factors affecting that. But where does this debate begin and end? Because there's no right or wrong to it. I suppose it depends as a fan what your expectation was going into the season. I know back in August, as I said, a lot of the fans were really disappointed in the window. We were linked with everyone under the sun. We delivered really nothing except Konate. But we've now shown, Joel Matip as well, after going a season practically uninjured, absolutely brilliant from him. So there's a lot of good there that's going on at the moment. We have a lot of cover there now. We have a much stronger bench. We have slightly better options, but I think we need more. I think in the summer we need to raise the profile of the bench a little bit more. We need to find that proper replacement for Gini Wijnaldum. I think with Mane potentially going to Bayern, we need to find a replacement quick as well, the right guy. And then we need to decide what we want to do with Mo Salah. If he's not going to sign, is it a case that he has to be sold? Is there a case that he spoke the other day about potentially going to a rival club in the Premier League, that he doesn't want to leave England? And if that's the case, is that him signalling that he wants a forced move in the summer? But we just have to get the right money both for him and Mane, and then we have to reinvest it, give it to Klopp to reinvest it. I know Klopp was very blunt in his interviews about it, especially when he was asked about Mane prior to the Champions League. He says, I don't really care. And some of the news coming out at the moment is a little bit concerning, that Mo Salah was offered a 15% increase on his wages, which I think is really, really low for what he brings, his overall package to the club. I think Sadio Mane, if it's true that he wanted just less than 400,000, which was probably tripling his wages maybe, I think is outrageous. And to think that you would have any chance of getting that, I think is absolutely crazy in terms of trying to break our wage structure. But there's a lot of good to take out of this, and I would leave you with the great man's words, the man who we've named the podcast off, the Shankly Sessions. He said, if you can't support us when we win or lose, if you can't support us when we lose and draw, then don't support us when we win. And never has that rang true. And I've often said in these circumstances that, you know, it's the losses on these days that makes the winning so much better. And I said that back in 2018 when we lost to Real Madrid, and then we went on and won it the following season, and then won the league. And it just made it so much more special. But we will continue on this journey. The Jurgen Klopp era will continue, and we will see what next season brings. We will be here fully in support of the team. As I've often said to people, it's not about the individual players. I've been following Liverpool now for 42 years. I've seen great players come and go. I've seen them replaced. And it's about Liverpool. And Liverpool is the club that's embedded in our hearts, not any particular player. And there was always going to come a time where it was Mane's time to go, or Bobby's time to go, or Salah's time to go. We've seen Steven Gerrard go. We've seen Robbie Fowler go. We've seen Michael Owen go. We've seen Luis Suarez go. We've seen lots of great players go. And we've built it up again. But until next time, let us know your comments. Drop them down there. Let us know how you feel. Can you take successes out of the season? Do you think it was a total failure? Obviously falling short on an unprecedented quadruple is disappointing to have been so close. If you want to contact the show, at Sessions Shankly on Twitter, the Upper Tier Podcast at gmail.com. We're also on YouTube, the Upper Tier, if you could obviously go over there and support that and share the episodes. Audio versions show Spotify, Google Podcasts and Amazon Music. And we're also on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok. And we will talk to you again on the other side. Cheers, Reds.